G'day and welcome to Choosing a Uni. I'm Rob Malicki and today I'm at the Nitmiluk National Park outside Katherine in the Northern Territory. And are you liking that view? This has got to be one of the most beautiful places that I've seen in Australia so far. So I'm going to take you around for a little bit of explore and tell you a little about this place. But while we're doing it, the reason you're really here is to talk about choosing a university, and particularly what happens if you want to change your degree or to change your university. There's lots of reasons why you might want to change your degree program or your institution once you get started. So I'm going to give you all the details about how that works and the things you need to think about. By the end of this video, you're going to feel a lot more confident about, firstly, starting the degree that you've chosen, knowing that, secondly, you can always change. You ready? Let's go have a look around this awesome place.
How good is this?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, there's lots of reasons why you might want to change your degree program or change this program that you're studying. And firstly, it might be because that's what you had always planned. You know, plenty of students decide that in order to get into their absolutely desired program, first they need a stepping stone, whether that's a stepping stone through a different degree or a stepping stone through a completely different institution. That's completely fair play. So it's a good way to get started, right? If you want to get into medicine and you haven't yet got the entry marks or made the other requirements, you can start in biomedicine, something like that. So completely fine to do that sort of thing. And it's really good strategy to think about what stepping stones you might take in order to get into that final ultimate program that you want to do, whether that's staying in the same institution or changing into another one. The next reason why I'm just making sure I don't fall flat on my face going down here, because that would not be good. The next reason why you might choose to change degree or to change institution is simply because you're not enjoying it. Like, I think a lot of people start a program, you've invested so much, you've gone to another country on the other side of the world, you've done all this research, you've started making friends, and then boom, it's not what you expect. Either the program doesn't feel like it's leading you where you want to go, it's not interesting to you, or maybe you've just failed everything. Actually, it's not that uncommon when you first get into a new program in another country that you find things a lot harder than you might have back home. Completely normal, don't feel bad. It's okay to change. You know what? Life is really long. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because you've got heaps of time in order to get to the end goal that you want to achieve. So if it's not working out for you, change. There's in fact a third reason why you might choose to change degree programs or change institution, and that's that you finally figure out exactly what it is you're most interested in and you want to pursue it further. That is the best possible situation. If that's the case, then you shouldn't care about getting advanced standing or whatever it might be. You should chase that thing that you're really interested in and that you're really passionate about in order to get where you want to go. Anyway, the question you're asking probably is like, can I change? If I decide to change my mind, can I change from institution to another institution? The answer is yes. Now, the Australian government has put in place different rules and regulations about under what circumstances you might be able to change your program. What I'm going to do is drop a link down below to the official government website where it explains what you need to do in order to change your provider. So they call it a provider. Every provider in Australia, so whether it's a university or a private institution or a language college, they are issued what's called a CRICOS code, a C-R-I-C-O-S, a CRICOS code. So you can change, but normally you can only change from one CRICOS provider, so one accredited provider, to another CRICOS provider, and there are rules that you need to follow. So check out that link below. And what about changing degrees once you've already started one? How hard is that? Well, it kind of depends what you're changing from and what you're changing to. I always think that it's a great idea to try and work out in advance what the big picture is for you. So are you looking to, work in a particular discipline area, or you're really just trying to discover what you're interested in? Both answers are completely fine. So if you want to change degrees, first thing to do is, of course, to look at the degree requirements of the degree that you're looking to go and start in, because the program you've already completed part of can count towards some of the requirements of that new degree program, as long as there's some compatibility in the subjects. The Australian universities work on a system which is called credit for previous study. Some people, or some institutions, call that advanced standing. Essentially, it's like giving you credit for something that you've already done. Sometimes you can get advanced standing or credit for previous study for things that you've done before you even arrive in Australia. But if you're transferring between degrees, you can always apply and try to convince your institution that some of the courses that you've already done should count towards that new program of study. But it's not guaranteed. Well, what if you're hoping to change degree programs and you can't get any advanced standing, any credit for previous study. Does that mean you shouldn't change? Does it mean that all that stuff that you've already done hasn't got any value? No, of course it doesn't mean that. Yes, you should still change if that's what you want to do, because anything that you've done previously still gives you some experience. You know, my whole first undergraduate degree was a science degree, and yet I've never worked in the sciences. But that did give me all of these amazing research skills and appreciation for the outdoors. And so now when I come to visit a place like this and I talk with the ranger, I can still have a great conversation and understand what he's talking about. So even though some things don't necessarily contribute directly to the work that you do in future, they still have enormous value. So yes, you should still think about changing degrees, even if those subjects you've already done won't count for credit. There's this thing in psychology which is called the sunk cost fallacy, which is essentially like throwing good money after bad. And if you're not enjoying something, or you feel like something isn't taking you in the right direction, we continue to think we should take that through to the end because we've already invested so much in it. But it's just not true. If things aren't going well and you think you should change, you should change. Well, if you know that you're only using one degree or one institution as a stepping stone to something else, it is so critical for you to do your homework in advance to make sure that you understand all the requirements for the final program that you're hoping to get into. Because what you don't want to be doing is wasting your time. It's not necessarily guaranteed that you're going to be able to count all of the credit or subjects from the first program you're starting in towards the second program, but who cares? You know where you want to get to in the end, and that's what's most important. So make sure you understand the entry requirements for that institution and for that program so that you can do everything you possibly can in the first program in order to get there. Now remember, when you change degree programs and or institution, it is going to impact your student visa, because your student visa is attached to that particular university, for example, and to that particular degree. So there is going to be administration that you need to do as part of changing over, but it is worth it in the long run. So before you go ahead and start, applying for new things, make sure you read all the details about your visa and the conditions of your visa and your particular program to make sure that when you change, it's not going to completely screw up your student visa. Because that's like the worst case scenario, is if your visa gets compromised, then you've got all sorts of problems. The great news is that as long as you plan in advance and you approach things and do everything well in advance, you're not going to run into massive troubles. Something to be aware of is that the university or the institution that you're looking to transfer to is going to be very keen to have you. They're going to be very keen for you to come and join them, because every institution is happy to have more international students. However, the institution that you are leaving may be less happy about you leaving. And so the first thing that they're likely to do is to try to convince you one way or another to hang around. And that might be by offering you additional support or trying to talk you into a different program. All of that's fine. It's fine for you to listen, but if you've really made up your mind, make sure you don't back down on following what it is you really, really want to do. You can actually use a little bit of strategy here, because not every university charges the same amount of fees for their programs. And so, for example, if you're hoping to end up with a degree from a very expensive university, a very prestigious one perhaps, and they charge a lot more money than another institution, you could actually do the maths on that and see if it isn't worth starting off at a different institution where maybe you're doing different sorts of courses, and then eventually transferring across to that more expensive, prestigious institution. Now, of course, remember that money isn't everything. Price is not everything, and you get what you pay for, right? So if you do choose to save on the money, more power to you. But it doesn't necessarily mean you've had the same experience overall. But these are all things for you to think about.